My name is Erin C. Driscoll, and I am 31 years old. For 3 years, I thought I had the kind of relationship that could survive the normal storms, the small disagreements, the busy weeks, the awkward family dinners, the occasional jealousy that you laugh off because you trust each other. My boyfriend was 29, and we'd been living together for a year. Nothing about us looked dramatic from the outside. We had routines, we had shared groceries and inside jokes, and a couch that still smelled like the candle he insisted was calming. We were decent, stable, the kind of couple who told themselves that decent was the same thing as safe. Then his ex-girlfriend moved back to town. He told me about it like it was nothing, like it was a random piece of news that belonged in the same category as traffic updates or a new restaurant opening. He said they'd dated briefly years ago, that it hadn't been serious, that they were just on good terms. I remember nodding like a mature adult, because I wanted to be the kind of woman who didn't flinch at the word ex. I wanted to be the cool girlfriend. I wanted to be confident enough not to turn normal life into a courtroom. 6 months ago, he started having book club every Saturday. At first, I didn't question it. People have hobbies. People have friends. Then I noticed there were no books, no group, no rotating hosts, no messy chatter about who didn't finish the chapters. It was just him, every Saturday, disappearing for hours, and coming back with that soft smile people get after they've been seen. When I finally asked, casually, he admitted it was only him and her, at her apartment. "We're just catching up," he said, like it should have reassured me. "She's going through a lot. It's nice to have someone who understands the old version of me." The old version of him. That phrase sat in my chest like a splinter. I told myself not to be dramatic. I told myself that adults can be friends with exes. I told myself that insecurity would make me ugly, and I refused to be ugly. So I swallowed it. I asked a few careful questions. He answered with the same calm script every time. "She's just a friend." It was 2 months, years ago. "You're reading into this. I need you to trust me." If I pushed harder, he sighed and acted like I was exhausting him. If I backed off, he rewarded me with affection, like I'd passed a test. Then book club grew teeth. Saturday became Saturday and Sunday brunch. Then Friday movie nights got added because, according to him, she was having a hard time with her dad's health and needed distraction. He said it the way people say the weather is bad, like it was a fact of nature, not a decision. Meanwhile, he was too tired for our date nights. Too drained to try the new Korean place I'd been saving on my phone for weeks. Too busy to plan anything that required effort, but somehow always energized for another weekend block of time with her. I started noticing details I wish I could forget. The way he showered right before book club, even if he'd showered that morning. The way he put on a nicer shirt than he wore to dinner with me. The way he checked his reflection in the hallway mirror, like he was stepping into a place where being wanted mattered. One Saturday, he walked out wearing a cologne I hadn't smelled in months, one he used to wear early in our relationship before life got comfortable. When I commented on it lightly, he shrugged and said, "I found it in a drawer." "Sure you did." The thing is, I had been offered a massive promotion 3 weeks earlier, and I'd turned it down, twice. It was the London office, executive level, 130K salary, full relocation package, a 3-bedroom flat covered for a year. A dream job, the kind of offer you tell your grandkids about someday. I declined because my boyfriend couldn't imagine leaving his family. He said it like it was romantic, like roots were proof of devotion. I told myself love required sacrifice, and I tried to be proud of the fact that I was choosing us. That Saturday, the same Saturday he'd been leaving for book club for 3 months straight, he was getting ready again, hair styled, freshly shaved, new outfit, and perfume. Expensive, sharp, the kind he never wore when we went out. I watched him from the bedroom doorway, feeling something in me sink, quiet and certain. "You sure you don't want to skip today?" I asked, keeping my voice gentle like I was negotiating with someone who might still care how I felt. "We could check out that new Korean place, just us, like a real date." He rolled his eyes like I'd asked him to cancel a work meeting. "Erin, we've been over this. She and I are friends." I stared at him, trying to find the part of him that used to take my feelings seriously. "Every weekend, though." He exhaled, irritated. "God, Erin, if you don't trust me hanging out with my ex every weekend, maybe we shouldn't be together." He said it with that casual cruelty people use when they think they have all the power, like he expected me to shrink, to apologize, to scramble for reassurance, to prove I wasn't insecure. I watched his face while the words settled. For a moment, he looked almost satisfied, like he'd finally forced the conversation into a corner where only his comfort mattered. And then I said, "You're absolutely right." His expression brightened, and for half a second I could see the relief, the confidence. He thought I'd folded. He thought I'd learned my place. "See?" he started. "I knew you'd—" "No," I cut in, and my voice surprised even me with how calm it was. "You're right. We shouldn't be together." His face went through about 12 expressions in 3 seconds, like his brain couldn't pick which version of the script to use. "Wait, what?" he said, the words coming out sharp. "Aaron, I didn't mean—" "I know what you meant," I said. "You meant you get to keep doing this, and I'm supposed to swallow it. I'm done swallowing." He stepped toward me, suddenly urgent. "You're being dramatic." I looked at him for a long moment, and something in me finally snapped into place, clean and final. "No, I'm being honest." I walked into our bedroom, opened my laptop, and sent an email to my boss. I didn't hesitate. I didn't negotiate. I didn't ask permission from a man who'd been spending his weekends auditioning for another woman's attention. My fingers moved like they'd been waiting for this. "I'll take the London position. Can start in 2 weeks." He followed me into the room, panic rising. "What are you doing?" he demanded, like I was committing a crime in my own life. "I'm accepting a job offer," I said, still calm. "You should probably stay at your parents' tonight, or your ex-girlfriend's. Your choice." His mouth opened, then closed. "Are you seriously breaking up with me over this?" I tilted my head. "You literally just said maybe we shouldn't be together. I'm agreeing." He stared at me like I'd stolen something from him. Then the tears came, not soft ones, not sad ones, angry ones. "You're being ridiculous," he snapped. "It's just a friendship." "Cool," I said. "Be friends. I'll be in London." He grabbed his keys and stormed out, throwing one last line over his shoulder like a curse. "You'll regret this." 20 minutes later, my phone exploded. Messages, calls, voicemails. "Baby, let's talk." "You can't just end 3 years like this. I'll stop seeing her if it bothers you that much." "Aaron, please, this is so immature." I didn't respond. I started packing. The silence after he left was louder than any argument we'd ever had. It filled the apartment, pressed against the walls, sat heavy on the couch where we used to watch shows together while half listening and scrolling on our phones. My phone kept buzzing on the counter, his name flashing over and over, but I didn't pick it up. For the first time in months, I wasn't interested in explaining how I felt in a way that would make him comfortable. I taped a box shut, then another, moving through the apartment with a strange clarity, like my body finally understood something my heart had been avoiding. That night, he didn't come home. I didn't have to ask where he was. Around 2 a.m, he answered the question for me himself. He posted an Instagram story from her couch, a wine glass in the frame, soft lighting, her coffee table visible in the corner. The caption read, "When life gives you lemons at 2 a.m." I stared at it longer than I should have, not because it hurt, but because it confirmed everything. The timing, the comfort, the way he ran straight to share her the second I stopped absorbing his choices. Whatever line he'd been insisting didn't exist had been crossed a long time ago. By morning, my phone was quiet. Instead, a text came in from his best friend, Mia. She and I had always gotten along, and I could hear the disbelief through the screen. "Did you guys really break up?" I replied honestly. "Yes, he suggested it." A minute later, another message popped up. "He told everyone you'd never leave, said you're too attached to your mom." I laughed out loud at that. My mom lives in Florida. I see her twice a year. The story was already being rewritten, and I wasn't surprised. He needed me to look unstable so he could look reasonable. While he curated his victim narrative, I got busy. I submitted my 2 weeks' notice. HR moved fast once I accepted the London role. Movers, flights, temporary housing, everything lined up like dominoes falling in my favor. It felt surreal how quickly my life expanded the moment I stopped shrinking it for someone else. I arranged for someone to take over my lease, booked my flight, and started shipping boxes overseas. I didn't miss him. What I missed was the version of myself who thought compromise was the same thing as love. 2 days later, he showed up at the apartment while I was packing. I didn't open the door. I didn't need to. He banged on it like he still belonged there. Aaron, I know you're inside. We need to talk. I texted him instead. Your things are in boxes by the door. Please take them. His response came back instantly. I'm not taking my stuff because I'm not leaving. This is insane. That's when I reminded him of a detail he'd always insisted on, one that suddenly mattered a lot. The lease was in my name. He'd never officially moved in. He'd kept his parents' address for mail, claiming it was easier, but really it was to avoid city taxes. That little shortcut had just cost him everything. He left, furious, but not before telling our entire friend group that I was having some kind of breakdown, abandoning my life for a stupid job. The funny thing was, the more he talked, the more the cracks showed. People started asking questions, and then the truth came out in a way I couldn't have planned better if I'd tried. A friend of mine, Ethan, works at the same gym as his ex. He overheard a phone call while changing weights one afternoon, something casual and careless. Yeah, she's basically single now. Her girlfriend's having some crisis. That alone would have been enough. But then came the kicker. No, babe. I told you she and I are just friends. I'm still coming to your sister's wedding. Babe, sister's wedding. That didn't sound like someone who was single or confused. That sounded like someone juggling stories. Turns out his ex had a girlfriend who lived 2 hours away and came down every other weekend. The weekends when my boyfriend supposedly had family obligations. Ethan sent me screenshots from their gym group chat dated 2 months back. Girls, you have to see this woman I'm hooking up with. Her girlfriend thinks we're just having book club. I stared at the messages until my hands stopped shaking. Then I forwarded them to my boyfriend with one word. Interesting. He called 17 times in a row. I didn't answer. I was too busy confirming my flight details. My flight was scheduled for Saturday at 3 in the afternoon. The same Saturday he'd been disappearing for book club like clockwork for months. The symmetry of it wasn't lost on me. That morning, just as I was sealing the last box, my phone buzzed with his name again. Then his mom's, then his sister's. I didn't answer any of them. They didn't stop. By 11, there was a knock on my door that felt heavier than the others, the kind that came with intention. When I opened it, there they were, lined up like an ambush. His mom, Diane, wearing that concerned smile people put on when they're about to accuse you of something while pretending it's for your own good. His sister, Haley, arms crossed, eyes sharp. And him, standing slightly behind them, like a child who'd brought backup to avoid accountability. I let them in, mostly because I wanted this finished before I boarded a plane and closed that chapter for good. Diane spoke first, voice syrupy. Aaron, sweetheart, we're really worried about you. I asked her why. She gestured vaguely around the apartment, this sudden decision to abandon everything and move across the world. It feels like a cry for help. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I simply told her it was a 70% pay raise, an executive position, and a full relocation package. Haley jumped in, scoffing. But what about him? You can't just leave him. I looked at my ex, who suddenly couldn't meet my eyes. He ended things, I said. I'm respecting his decision. That's not what he meant, Haley snapped. He finally spoke then, frustrated. You know I didn't mean it literally. I tilted my head. Then maybe don't use ultimatums you don't intend to stand by. Diane tried a different angle, pointing out the apartment, how he'd been living there. I reminded her, calmly, that he'd never been on the lease, never paid a bill, never even received mail there. Legally, he was a guest. The room shifted. You could feel it. The power they thought they had wasn't real. You're really going to throw all this away over one little friendship? Haley asked. That was when I pulled out my phone. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't announce anything. I just handed it to Diane and let her scroll. The gym chat screenshots, the timelines, the words, her girlfriend thinks we're having book club. The color drained from her face. Is this real? She whispered. My ex turned red, jaw clenched. Those are out of context, he muttered. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. They left not long after that. He accused me of being emotionally abusive for spying. I reminded him I hadn't been spying. Someone else had cared enough to tell me the truth. By noon, I was in a cab to the airport. At 12:30, I posted a photo on Instagram, a simple one, a suitcase, a window. The caption read, "New adventure begins." The comments flooded in. confusion, surprise, speculation. At 2:30, while I was boarding, my phone buzzed one last time. "What are you doing this weekend? Can we talk?" I smiled, took a selfie from the gate with the London flight board glowing behind me, and sent it. His reply came fast. "This isn't funny, Aaron." I told him I wasn't trying to be funny. Boarding closes in 10 minutes. He asked if I was really leaving. I asked him if he really thought I'd stay after he chose his ex over our relationship every weekend for 3 months. "I didn't choose her," he said. "Every weekend says otherwise," I replied. He said he was coming to the airport. I told him I was already through security. Then I turned off my phone and walked onto the plane, lighter than I'd felt in years. London didn't feel real at first. The flat the company provided looked like something pulled out of a magazine. Exposed brick, tall windows, a view of the Thames that made the mornings feel cinematic instead of rushed. I walked to work every day like I was borrowing someone else's life, half expecting it to disappear if I blinked too long. My new team was sharp, welcoming, and for the first time in years, I felt excited about my work instead of drained by it. I didn't realize how much of myself I'd been shrinking until there was suddenly room to expand. Back home, though, the fallout was loud. He went nuclear on social media, posting a long, emotional rant about how I'd abandoned him without warning, how I chose money over love, how I refused to work on our relationship. The comments didn't go the way he expected. People remembered the stories. People remembered the Instagram posts from book club. They asked questions he couldn't answer. Some of them tagged me in support. Others tagged him in screenshots he'd forgotten existed. He deleted the post within hours, but the damage was done. Then the real truth bomb landed. His ex-girlfriend's actual boyfriend, Olivia, reached out to me on Instagram. "You don't know me," she wrote, "but I think we've both been lied to." She'd seen the posts. She'd heard the version of the story where I was supposedly unstable and controlling. He'd told her I was obsessed with him, jealous, incapable of trusting a friendship. I sent her everything. The timelines, the gym chat screenshots, the pattern of weekends. She was devastated, but grateful. What she sent back made my stomach drop. Screenshots of his texts to her. "She's just lonely since her girlfriend works so much." "Yeah, she's pretty, but nothing compared to you, babe. Her girlfriend's kind of a loser anyway." I stared at the screen, not because I missed him, but because I finally saw the full scope of who he was when he thought no one was watching. Olivia dumped him spectacularly, posting everything to her Instagram story with captions like, "cheater, liar, and book club my ass." He called me from 3 different numbers that night, furious. "You need to control your woman," he snapped. I told him she wasn't my woman and he wasn't my problem. He said I had no right. I told him he had no right to sleep with his ex every weekend while calling me insecure. He hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A month into London, he showed up outside my office building. Security didn't let him in, bless them, so he waited 4 hours. When I came out for lunch, there he was, thinner, unwashed, wearing the same sweatshirt he'd been recycling in his Instagram stories. He said we needed to talk. I told him he couldn't be there. He said he flew 4,000 miles, and I owed him a coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed. 1 coffee. Public place. No drama. He admitted it then. All of it. He said he thought he could have both. That I'd always be there. That I never really stood up to him, so he assumed I never would. When he said it, it sounded less like an insult and more like a confession. He cried, told me he'd changed, that he blocked his ex, that he was in therapy. I told him I was glad he was working on himself, genuinely. Then he tried one last move. "I'm pregnant," he said, watching my face, like he expected panic. I laughed, actually laughed. "No, you're not," I said. We hadn't slept together in 2 months. His face collapsed. "I'm not," he admitted. "I just needed you to care." I told him I did care, for 3 years. He just didn't notice until I stopped. He flew back that night. I blocked him everywhere. You'd think the story would end there, but some people refused to exit quietly. 2 weeks later, Mia sent me a message. He was already dating someone new, a man named Kieran, his CrossFit coach, posting nonstop about how the right person shows up when you're working on yourself. The captions were painfully familiar. Patterns going to pattern. It didn't last. Turns out Kieran was also just friends with his ex. They had workout sessions every weekend. He got caught in a very compromising stretching position. The apology message came through WhatsApp, the one app I'd forgotten to block. Now I understand how you felt. I'm so sorry. I left it on read. The universe wasn't done yet. His ex, the one he'd insisted was harmless, got a job offer in London. Same industry, same corporate housing building. Of course she did. I ran into her in the lobby one morning, with a girl who looked barely out of her teens. "Erin, this is Chloe," she said, grinning. "She's my buddy." I told her we weren't buddies. Chloe Googled her that night, found Olivia's posts, and dumped her in the building's WhatsApp group by accident instead of a private text. 200 residents saw it. Security started calling her book club. Then the tax thing caught up with him. Remember how he insisted on keeping his parents' address to avoid city taxes? Someone reported it. I never asked who, but Olivia works for the state tax department and takes fraud very seriously. 3 years of back taxes, penalties, and interest. His parents bailed him out, but only after making him move back home. For real this time. 6 months into London, I had my review. Another raise, a permanent position. They asked if I wanted to stay long-term. I said yes immediately. I was dating someone new then, a man named Aiden. Irish, works in publishing. Thinks the entire book club saga is hilarious. Has exactly 0 exes he sees every weekend. Last week, we planned a trip to Paris. Simple, easy, honest. His last Instagram post was about growth and how sometimes the best thing someone can do is leave so you can find yourself. Comments turned off. I smiled when I saw it, not out of spite, but relief. To everyone who said I should have fought harder, why would I? He literally told me we shouldn't be together if I couldn't accept his ex every weekend. I disagreed with his assessment and chose myself. To anyone who thinks I was too harsh, I turned down a life-changing opportunity twice for someone who was cheating on me while calling me insecure. I wasn't harsh enough. I don't regret leaving. I regret waiting as long as I did. Cheers from London.